right, so Semi Bird, thanks for taking the time to make it all the way here to Everett, Washington. I know you're in the southeast, not the fully southeast corner, but way over there in Tri-Cities.
Yeah.
How's how many miles you putting on your car now?
Oh my gosh. I don't want to think about it. I bought my dream car, and then this happened, and so no. It's I'm not even thinking about it. I'm focused on the mission and getting out and meeting as many people as I can. It's been a lot of fun. It really has.
So Semi Bird, Republican candidate for governor, for 2024. What gave you the harebrained idea to even jump into an endeavor like this?
Yeah, I think it's just really observing how politics has progressed or regressed, if you will, over the last 20 years and probably a lot longer. And then in Washington State, I had a couple triggers, so to speak, if I can use that term. One was the shutdown, right? Because I was asked to run for political office for a long time. And I'll just say bluntly, being a conservative black man, it's like spotting a brown unicorn in Eastern Washington. There's just not a lot of us there. And folks said, well, you know what? You're qualified, your life experience. We think you'd be great in serving your nation in that capacity. And I said, I appreciate it. I've spent my entire life serving my nation. I think it's time. Well, I know it's time for my family. And then when I watched what was happening with the shutdowns, the state, the economy, our schools, our places of worship, and I knew something was terribly wrong. Not just the COVID virus, but how things were progressing, the emergency powers with no end state to that. And I saw the forest for the trees. I mean, I'm a behavioral scientist. I'm a strategist. I'm an intel guy. My life experience says danger, danger, Will Robinson. And then someone approached me again. They said, Simi, there's a lot of stuff happening. Would you serve? And I said, I'll tell you what. I will serve as a school board director because they shut down the schools. And my youngest, who's now 16, was in 7th grade at that time. And I know that children do not learn well online via computer. Andragogy, pedagogy, adults struggle with that. So I said, no, I'm going to get my daughter in a private school, Catholic school, and praise be, I can afford it. But that's what my motivation was, to say I will run for school board director, and I did so. And, it's interesting because my daughter was going back to the public school system naturally because that's what she came up in. And I had a run-in with the principal from a simple question. I'm running now for the school board, and I have this teacher that is nonstop CRT, critical race theory, right? And saying really nasty things on social media, which, again, everybody has a constitutional right to be as silly as they want to be. And
but you also have a it's not, I don't know if it's constitutional, but you also are responsible for what comes out of your mouth.
Well, you should be. I mean, there's the Constitution and there's human decency, which I believe the Constitution actually speaks to that a little bit as well, based on what influenced the development of the Constitution, from a scripture purpose. But, and so I sent an email to this principal, and the first thing he did was to defend this teacher. Part of me respects that. But he's in a position of service to students and parents. I could tell he forgot that. There was another little warning light there as well. At the end of the day, I ended up taking my concern to the superintendent. And the whole thing was, I want to make sure that this teacher, who would have been my daughter's teacher, was not going to penalize her for the fact that her dad is a constitutional Christian conservative, And based on his vitriol online. So, at the end of the day, watching how they responded to that, I said, no, I'm pulling my child out of the public school system. I'm still going to serve in the school board so I can fix things. And we progressed in doing that. And to get right back to your question, the transition from that to governor was the nonsense continued, The laws, the bills that kept coming through legislature, and observing politicians over the last decades, we continued to elect these establishment types, the political aristocracy, career politicians, people who have been blessed off by the wealthy or the elitist, of the Republican tribe. And so what about career Americans, people who have stumbled, fell, got up, pulled themselves up from their bootstraps, struggled every day to put food on the table, maybe serve their country, right? Or has a resume of acknowledged skills and abilities to bring value to the position. And so that's why I said, no, I'm going to run, because I need to stand up, because our state is going over the cliff, number one, and continue to do so. The next thing was, well, who's going to stand up and advocate for me as a citizen?
Right.
Right? Are we going to have more of the same, more of the establishment career politicians? I'll give it right back to you, but I have to share this. When I started inquiring and doing the research, right, due diligence before asking my wife permission, naturally, my chain, chain of command, I talked to someone who I knew was involved in politics, and she said, oh, no, we have a great candidate that's going to be running for governor. You should run for, like, lieutenant governor or office of superintendent of public instruction or something like that. And her validating statement was, he's rich and he can finance his own campaign.
Great.
That was it.
Where do I sign?
Right? Right? And it's like, oh, I feel great.
Yeah.
Here's a career American that'll represent me, because everybody's rich. Right? And that is the catalyst, or that is the resume you're looking for.
Yeah.
And so that's when I was.
Rich can be good, but what else is else is associated with that? Right?
I'm a capitalist myself, right? Started with nothing, worked up to have. But no, I mean, we need servant leaders. We need people who are not in it for themselves, but are in it for the right reasons, to uphold, protect the Constitution and our civil rights, right? Our civil liberties and our constitutional rights. That's why a public servant, how's that? A public servant.
Yeah, weird.
Right?
Weird term.
Not I would almost say the better term, not politician.
Right.
But someone who serves the public.
Well, and sorry, weird term, because they're obviously public servants and they don't act like it.
Oh, no, I got you.
Yeah.
Oh, no, yes. Well, that's it. And so, again, I gave you a very long tour of the reasons, but it's just, I can't sit by, Dylan, and see someone struggling and do nothing. I can't sit by and watch catastrophe and then take my phone out and record it, right?
Right.
I'm not that guy. I run to it. I didn't know that until combat, but as it turns out, no, that's just how I'm wired. And I protect, I serve, I love people, duty, honor, integrity. These things mean something to me.
Great. Well, let's extrapolate from that a little bit. So you mentioned behavioral scientist.
Yes.
I looked up. It looks like you got a pile of degrees.
I got a few.
I stopped at bachelor's. I was done. And then you mentioned the military. Tell us about your background.
Yeah.
And then this is kind of the boring candidate question. How does your background make you the words escaping my mind.
Oh, no. It's a beautiful
qualified.
question.
How does your background make you qualified for this position?
Rather, I think it's beautiful. So I will, I'll share to the folks who may be watching this and say, I started out in the inner city ghetto of East Oakland, California, pre-civil rights. And so focus on this concept. Here I am now in a studio running for the office of governor, the highest office in my state. And I started off without civil rights in America. I think that statement speaks to the beauty of America and why America is so special and must be protected, right? Must be preserved. So, born to a single mother of 7 children, all by herself. Right there, the first thing that should come in people's minds, this is an amazing, strong, and beautiful woman. And she was. That's my mother. Yes, I am a mama's boy, proud. I always will be. But Mom raised me to have resiliency. She wanted me to be able to navigate adversity, not succumb to it. She raised me to understand my self-worth, to understand the importance of self-esteem, personal courage, always find a way to do the right thing. And so, again, she put the Bible in front of me and demanded a scripture, right? And a word from the dictionary. She thought those 2 books were the catalyst to success. I have to say I agree with that, even at age 62. So Mom moved us to Seattle, Washington, when I was 7 years old. So I'm from Seattle, Washington, raised in Seattle, Washington, dropped out of high school in Seattle, Washington, because K through 11, I struggled academically. I was bored. I didn't want to be there. Socially, it wasn't the funnest time for me, and for a myriad of reasons. But yeah, I dropped out and I joined the United States Marine Corps. And my due diligence on that was, man, they had the best looking uniforms. So, you know,
Done.
right?
Sign
I'm
me
in.
up.
I'm
Yep.
all in. And I served in the Marine Corps. I served 2 enlistments, 2 great enlistments. I got busted in rank, right? Right, as I'm saying, 2 great enlistments, because as I look back and reflect, every lesson, every trial or tribulation is a lesson learned if you process it that way, right? And so, and I have to share this story. This was a one-off. I found myself on the wrong side of a racist sergeant, and you know, I listened to the little jokes and the N-word dropped here and there, and it got to a point where I was late for formation, and that's on me. That was my responsibility, and he put hands on me, and then that was it. I just
Like he hit you, or
oh
he
no,
grabbed you?
he grabbed me exactly, and then I hit him, and so
Mm-hmm.
when he woke up, I was in trouble, and right, and so that's on me. I defended myself, and when I went to my commander, I was telling him, you know, sir, this guy's a racist. He's been, you know, harassing me and all these other things, and my commander says that doesn't matter,
It's the military, sorry.
right?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And I said, well, you know what? It matters to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, my voice needed to be heard. So I requested trial by court, which is court-martial.
Right.
I requested it, right? And got through it. And, of course, the military says, yeah, he had a problem with race. And, yeah, he put hands on you first. Yeah, you defended yourself, but you still hit a non-commissioned officer. You still hit a sergeant.
Right.
So, yeah, you're getting busted, and you're going to chip paint off of ships for 28 days or so.
Yeah.
Right, as recompense. And I did it. But the lesson learned, I didn't give up on myself, because of the way I was raised. I didn't give up on my Marine Corps that I love to this day, right? I got my Good Conduct Medal, Sea Service Deployment Expeditionary Medal, my honorable discharge, right? And I left the Marine Corps, and I left it also with my high school diploma, because that was a promise that a 17-year-old and his recruiter made to my mother, that if she signs, I would do it. And I did. And I did go to college for my bachelor's degree in business administration, summa cum laude 4.0, right, from the high school dropout with D's and F's for grades. So never give up a child, right? we learn differently. But, then later I attended Villanova University for my graduate degree, human resource development and different specialties. I'm a professional at that. And 16 years later, after 9/11, I volunteered for Army Special Forces. So September 11th, 2001, I volunteered for Army Special Forces. A couple of years later, actually I would say maybe a year and a half later, I had enlisted previously. I was a flight medic, search and rescue. And after my first deployment, just to deviate a little bit, I ended up as a National Guardsman deploying as a sniper and a sniper team leader. But while deployed, someone said, you should go Army Special Forces. And I said, well, I'm 41 years old. And they said, we don't discriminate against old people. And so I came back from deployment. I got in great shape. I tried out. I was accepted and went off to Fort Bragg to the qualification course. A year and a half, 2 years later, after finishing my foreign language and all my training, I received my Special Forces tab, Green Beret, deployment. Served, loved serving in the regiment, loved serving with my brothers and sisters, professionals, focused on the mission. Our team dynamics were state-of-the-art, meaning we trusted each other implicitly. I mean, without a doubt, everybody had everybody's back. It was family, and we were doing amazing things. So I loved it, and after serving multiple deployments, I went into Special Forces Intelligence, received some amazing training, which helped me to fall in love with psychology because of different things you can figure out in intelligence and things of that nature. Profiling was my specialty in targeting. And so I came back for my last deployment, decided to take a job. I was going to go to the CIA. It was a natural progression for me, a walk-on with my clearances, etc. But we got pregnant with my youngest daughter. And so I chose family. So I took a job with the United States Department of Energy, worked my way up from GS nothing to GS 14 out of 15. I was a federal director of organizational development, was acting chief of staff at the Hanford nuclear site for a while, and I retired as the director of training and leadership development. I'm going to shorten this up. I then took a job with Washington State University as an associate director of professional development and community education. I focused on writing leadership curriculum and teaching leadership to the business community and to students and community members. And so I think I'll stop there because I kind of unloaded a lot.
Yeah, well, let
you.
me see if I can summarize here. You've got leadership experience.
Yes.
You've got bureaucracy experience.
Yes.
Which is so boring, but it's really important.
Absolutely.
Right? And you've got government experience. Yep. I mean, is it just the school board?
Oh, no. So I will say I served my last assignment while still in the service as an advisor to the United States Ambassador of Bangladesh.
Well, I guess let me be more. You have elected
yes.
government experience.
Elected to the school board, and I was the legislative representative as the school board director. Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great. And then I cut you off from the thing.
Oh, yeah.
What was, you were...
So advisor. So
to what?
Yeah, it was an advisor to the United States Ambassador in Bangladesh on counterterrorism, counterintelligence. Specifically, my job was to build partner nation capacity. And so that's working with our host nations to develop their ability to resist, right, terrorism or insurgency. We train, we develop. And while doing that, we do other things to help the country build their border security. I worked with the Director General of Border Guard. I worked with their CIA director.
Were you in Bangladesh, or are you just doing phone calls?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
I lived there. Yeah, I lived
okay.
there. And not just Bangladesh. So we had South Asia. So we had folks in, India, Sri Lanka, Nepal, all over Maldives. And I loved it. Again, great work. And people said, well, Bangladesh, it's dirty. Oh, the people were beautiful. And I interacted with ministers of government. I wore a suit every day. And so, I was there as, I don't want to make it seem like I was a knock or anything from intelligence.
Right.
I was in very plain cover as a security forces assistance manager was my title. And I worked with government officials to help build their capacity, again, to resist foreign threats, intelligence and physical. And so in doing so, you work with ambassadors, you work with different agencies. I worked with Justice, I worked with the HCIA, I worked with all DEA, and throughout my career, working with different government agencies, whether it's border, right, whether it's intelligence. I worked in the Asia Pacific area of operation, so I've been to Taiwan multiple times. My second language was Mandarin Chinese.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, my third language was Spanish because I worked counter-narcoterrorism with Special Operations Command South, so South Central America, Caribbean, Pacific, mitigating narcoterrorism. This is what I refer to as a career American, someone who actually has the knowledge, skills, and abilities.
Yeah, I was going to say this. I mean, it's one thing after another.
Yeah.
It's like, he's not slowing down. He's still going. He's not repeating himself. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, I loved it. And I learned a lot. And I grew and I developed. And I think it's important for elected officials, especially at a senior level, right? I believe it's important to have a certain type of a background. And when I say a certain type of a background, you need to have a certain type of a mindset. And we'll talk about that. But you're going to be running a large organization. Right, you're going to be engaging with different agencies.
You got to control your people just as much as you have to have good ideas.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's that leadership. There's understanding human resources, understanding labor and bargaining, right? Doing contracts, because most of our state, we have 16,865, give or take, an employee, right? Employees in Washington State. That's a huge number of employees, and most of them are all labor relations, so bargaining agreement employees. How about a leader who understands contracting with the unions and right? As well as leading, as well as organizational structure and development, performance improvement. So as a behavioral scientist, that's what I did after I left WSU. I had my own consulting firm, and I was hired by aerospace industry, universities, educational service districts, any type of an organization, hospitals, urban and rural, to help streamline and make their organizations more efficient, more effective, to develop their senior leaders all the way down to their frontline leaders. And when I say all this, it was my love. It was my passion, helping to develop and seeing organizations grow and building culture so that their employees loved to come to work, right? So they had the highest level of retention, highest levels of recruiting, because people wanted to be there. That was my job, and helping leaders to understand the various concepts of leadership and what leadership truly is. Not just managing an organization, but inspiring, empowering, and motivating people to be their best selves so that they can be their best selves in their performance of their jobs.
It sounds like, to me, you're running for this because if you don't challenge yourself, you'll get bored.
Oh, brother. All right, doctor. All right. No, I mean, I tell my friends. So people talk to me. They're like, "How old are you?"
Yeah.
Right? And then my friends who know me, just like you said, and they're like, I'll say, I'm going to retire, and they're like, "Yeah, no, you're not, Simi."
Yep.
And I promise. So my promise to my wife is at some point I will retire, and I always honor my word to my wife. So that's one thing. I adore my bride.
Sounds like there's a technicality there. Okay, I'm gonna die in 5 minutes, so I'll retire now. Yeah.
Right.
No, I'm 98 years old. I got 5 minutes left. I retire.
Yeah. No, maybe that's how. But no, I'll always find a way to serve. Right. And at the end of the day, serving my wife and my daughters, nothing more noble than serving your family. But when given an opportunity or given the calling, and then there's that other aspect, and I've alluded to it. I'm a believer, right? I love God, and my entire life has been, I don't want to say a miracle, because I've heard talk, recently with Tim Scott running, and someone said, that's a one-off, right? He's an anomaly. That doesn't happen, that a black man can rise up, and I don't agree with that. I really don't agree with that.
We had a black president. Did we get that news?
Oh, we did.
Have you heard that we had a black president before?
And we did. But what they were trying to say, we do this a lot, and I won't digress too much, but we take a concept that has some merit to the discussion, and then we go extreme with it. Because there is, when you look at the numbers, right, but then also when you look at the demographic population in America, there is an imbalance. And so you take that to professions, and there's so much I can talk about with that. And yes, we do want to see more representation. I get all of that. But where we're at now in the 21st century America, there is nothing we cannot accomplish in life if we choose, right, and we work hard enough.
It's a thing of like, okay, here are the challenges I'm facing. Is it fair? Is it unfair? It's probably unfair. What are you going to do about it? You're the actor in this play box,
yes,
right? And everybody's got their own challenges, and maybe this group of people has more challenges than that group of people, and we want to make it better.
Yeah.
But this is you in this spot right now, and you have decision over yourself. What are you going to do?
That's it. I mean, and that's probably why my mother and many other moms out there, right, raise their children to be resilient. Parents typically tell their children, honey, there's nothing you can't accomplish in life, right?
Right.
You can, right? You can. And I tell people, I was raised to be an American, not an Americant. And so you alluded to it perfectly. Everyone has adversity. Everyone has to navigate trials and tribulations. But I think the family and how you're raised and how you grow up and how you develop, we find ways to navigate to navigate those challenges, and to find our best selves and to find our destiny in life, to find our version of the American dream, regardless of your race, creed, color, or religion.
Right.
That's America. I mean, really, that is America. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he understood that, right? And he referred to the Declaration and the Constitution as magnificent documents, as a promissory note for all Americans. And so that dream is alive. That opportunity is alive. And I think we need to stop the divisiveness, stop saying you can't, and raising children or indoctrinating children to believe that their color determines their outcomes in life. Right? Which truly is subjugation, in my opinion, and from a behavioral standpoint, that is, Stelgman's theory of learned helplessness. Right.
Well, to that point, I don't want to belabor this point too long, but I mean, there's real oppression, and then there's what you're doing to yourself. Like, if we were in a Stalinist gulag, we've got some real oppression to deal with. Like, you're just not achieving your dream because you're not thinking big enough.
Yeah.
No, you're really oppressed in a Stalinist gulag, right? Yeah. But and there's some elements of real oppression in this country too. Yes. But to your point, it's nothing like this. Let's look at all these other examples in history of how bad things were.
Yes.
You got to separate what's the real oppression versus you just doing learned helplessness.
Well, no, 100%. And again, now that we're on this line, I think it's important for people to understand, especially my perspective. And so I'm not a denier of racism or segregation or slavery.
It's a thing.
It's a thing. It's history.
Existed.
Those are facts. We know. And we do know that those incidents led to where we're at today, but it doesn't define who we are as individuals, and that is your point.
Right.
Because in this unique experiment known as a constitutional republic, right?
Right.
And how we have advanced, thank goodness for great Americans like Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and others, right? We have gotten to a point where although there are still some discrepancies or disparities, right?
But compared to what, right?
Yes,
compared to what?
exactly.
Yeah.
And I would say also, we were talking about Bangladesh.
Yeah.
You want to talk about suffering. I mean, when a lack of nutrition, where you have stunting and deformities.
Because there's just not enough food.
Because there's not enough food. I've talked to people that say, you don't work, you die. I mean, you want to know hardship, right? Leave the country for a minute and go out and see how people struggle and then come back. I guarantee you'll understand how everyone in this nation, regardless of color, is born into privilege. Everyone. Mm-hmm. And so I think life is much a mindset, what you do with it. And going back to the governor's race, I would say that leaders don't divide. Leaders unite. Mm-hmm. Leaders don't pick sides. Leaders find a way to communicate. Leaders help to direct so people understand these are objectives. These are issues we should focus on with the idea of finding solutions to create value for everyone. That is what leadership is.
Right.
And I've been seeing so many of these politicians get elected, or these establishment types, and because they don't have the knowledge, skills, abilities, or background, or the mindset to lead, we are divisive. Mm-hmm. We're not getting anything done. And if you look at Washington State, every single day it gets worse and worse and worse. And I'm not a quitter. I'm not a defeatist, right? There's a lot of optimism in what we can do, mm-hmm. but someone's got to step up to do it.
Someone's got to do it.
Yeah. And here we are.
Well, let's pivot to that.
Yeah.
Let's say you win.
Yep.
You're now the governor.
Yes.
Tammy Bird. What's the most important thing on your agenda?
Oh my goodness. I don't want to say that there's one thing that's more.
What are the most important things?
Yes. Thank you. So thank you. So we'll hit maybe a top 3, top 5 grouping, and clearly every single day what people can see is the homeless situation in Washington State, right? We spent $800 million. King County spent billions, right? And they had a new proposal for $11.5 billion more. We spent $800 million,
Someone's
right?
That.
Oh no!
Yeah.
And you alluded to it, right? This homeless industrial complex, right? To where we contract and we partner with these nonprofits or organizations, and no one is monitoring, no one is checking whether they've established any kind of strategy for plan implementation or measurements of success or performance.
You're going to do good things with this pallet of cash, right? Okay, good.
That's it. That's it. Drop it off, and But again, to prove that, right, is to say that we've spent all of that money, yet homelessness is up 10% in the last year. So, and if we didn't have the statistics, you can see it with your own eyes. So again, dealing with that is huge. I actually put out a plan to do that. Mm-hmm. Addressing the crime, the lawlessness situation in Washington State. And I say to anybody out there, when you think about crime, I mean, right, Washington State, murder is up 95% compared to last studies. Rape is up 51%. Property crime is up 73%. We have a crime problem, and we're number 3 right now in the nation for auto theft. That's not something to be proud of, but I'll tell you this. I did an interview on Fox and Friends a few weeks ago, and they showed Jay Inslee when he was doing his announcement talking about we become the beacon of progress for America. The beacon of progress.
Tell me what progress means, Jay Inslee.
That would be the $1 million question, right? If how to run your state off a cliff, how to increase the budget so much. He doubled it since he first came into office. How to create so much despair and helplessness in your state. How to kill an economy. How to
kill people. Opioids.
And kill people. And it's, oh my goodness. And so how they deal with it. They talk about this word compassion. And they say this special interest group has more compassion than this special interest group. And what I say to folks, the definitions. There's only one truth. Compassion is not giving people more needles to kill themselves slowly on the streets. Compassion is not giving them more paraphernalia to let them use the drug of choice to kill yourself slowly. I lost my nephew to opioid addiction and overdose 2 months ago. So,
sorry to hear that.
No. And again, he knew what he was doing. He was not in control. And the family suffered along with them in a sense of, you love your family member, you want the best for them, and you see them struggling, and you're helpless because you try everything, and no, I don't want to. So the option is death, right? Or what this state is doing, keeping them alive in misery to suffer, right? Well, no, we're not going to do that. So I'm just going to tell everybody watching, I'm going to declare a state of emergency as soon as I get elected to office. We're going to activate the National Guard, not to go down the street and round people up at gunpoint, but to create a facility where they will have some of the best. Our servant soldiers, right? Our citizen soldiers are among the best, among the most skilled. Field health, right? Hospitals, dental, mental health therapy,
get them off, keep them off.
We're getting them off the streets. We're getting them clean. We're getting them sober. We're getting the counseling they need. We're giving them their lives back. And as they start to clear the fog, that evil of addiction, and again, mental illness can be lifetime, so can addiction. But as they're clearing that fog of evil, we are going to be there with their families who have been waiting and loving them and begging for someone to do something to help them get their lives back. And then we're going to bring in education, certifications, trades, and partner with our business community for immediate job placement, right? We can incentivize our business communities to do that. And they're screaming for skilled and qualified labor as it is. And so when they go to transitional housing, that chance of recidivism statistically decreases by almost 3/4 because
what are they going to do?
Exactly. They have.
What do I do now? Yeah.
That's it. They have a life. They have a job. They're on their path, right? And they still will have that counseling and support until they're free. And for my fiscal conservatives out there, they'll be paying taxes, right? And
and it'll be a lot cheaper than the $11 billion proposal
That's it, right? That's it. And so just bringing solutions. And I don't take it lightly when you use executive powers or declare states of emergencies. We're not going to exchange one tyrant for another.
Right.
But you have to do what you have to do righteously to bring solutions to get results.
Right.
We're going to do this, and now we're talking about people's lives. And then back to crime. We've acknowledged that it's out of control. We can also acknowledge that prosecutors are failing to uphold their oth of office, right, to enforce the law.
What do you do about that?
Right? Yeah. No, I mean, I've got to say, I think there is something we can do, and I will partner with, I want to say, legal scholars, and I am partnering with legal scholars because my pathway is this. When you're failing to uphold your oath of office, right, to enforce the law, right, everyone is equal under the law, but when you're not enforcing the rule of law, you're in countervention of the law. Right? That's how I see that. And so they're not upholding their oaths. And as I read the state constitution, that is one of the critical areas in which you can actually start to look at how to remove someone, right, when they're not upholding their oath of office. And that's something to think about. Again, I don't have a 100% solution in it, but what I will say is, I will be working with them to help them understand that if you
have a job to do here.
You have a job to do. If you want state support, well, then you need to protect your citizens of your counties, right? You want state support, you want state funding, well, then you have an obligation as per your oath to take care of those people, to protect lives and property within. I shouldn't have to tell someone that. But again, leadership. You don't sit back in Olympia as a governor. Meanwhile, everything around you is burning to the ground. How can people operate like that? And people could say, Simi, that's so aspirational and so, virtuistic of you. It's like, no, it's called solutions with action.
Right.
Someone has a
here's the goal. Here's how I'm gonna
boom. Yeah. And then make it happen. Right. And that's what our citizens deserve. And this is non-political. So we cannot let people make it political and say, well, you're right wing and you're that. No. I'm a citizen. I'm a citizen of one of the most beautiful states in the nation, and I care. And so we're going to do something.
And then let's go back to that word compassion because I will. Let me admit something here. I've cleaned up. I used to own a junk removal company, and I've cleaned up drug houses.
Oh, yes.
And after you clean up those drug houses, you ain't got nothing nice to say about these people. Yeah. You ain't got nothing nice to say about these people because, it's the conditions that they're living in. You ask yourself, how are you literally not dead living in these conditions, right? Mm-hmm. And So I want to preface saying I've done that, and I come from the non-compassion side because I'm like, I've had to clean up after people.
Yeah.
But, okay, that's off my chest, is that there's got to be a mix between the two, right? I mean, we can't round them all up and do firing squad.
No.
Right? That's ridiculous. But at the same time, it's also not compassionate. I mean, imagine your best friend is you find them that they're shooting up. Are you just going to be like, oh, let me get you some clean needles?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Let me give you a safe place to shoot up. That's not compassion.
It's not. And to your point, and what you allude to is the fine balance. And so, there's another aspect of this.
There's sorry to interrupt,
No.
but there's a hardness.
Yes.
That's involved with the compassion.
Yeah.
Some strictness which is involved in the compassion.
And I would say, when you find yourself, when you've given up on yourself, so your own personal health is not something you're thinking of. You're thinking about that next addiction, that next fix, right? Your roof over your head of whether you have affordable housing, that's the last thing you're thinking about. You're thinking of that fix. So they have given up on themselves. So what you see in those very vile living conditions,
they don't care.
I mean, I don't think they're capable anymore of caring. And so to give them that empathy, I would say there's accountability. And so to the point, yes, there is the rule of law. And so once again, you cannot pitch a tent here, or any place else you want to just because you want to. It's illegal. And you will be fined, or you will be prosecuted, and if necessary, incarcerated.
We'll get you in the system.
Exactly. And so then you have a choice. You can go to jail and get clean the hard way, or you can go to a program, right? A program, a facility that gives you a clean, safe space to grow into yourself, to get your life back, right? I think when you're faced with those two choices, I think the common sense is it's so much easier. You get to see your family again. We're gonna give you hope, but just to get them there is the hard thing. So how we do that is we enforce the law. No one is rounding anybody up. These are still citizens with civil liberties and rights. And my job as a governor, Article 1, Section 1, right? It's powers inherent in the people, and it's government's job. So government derives their powers by the consent of the governed, and it's our job to maintain, right, and protect the individual rights of citizens. And that includes those who don't even care or realize that they have rights anymore because they're consumed with addiction or mental illness. But no, make no mistake about it, that is part of the program. It's part of my initiative to say, you cannot do that anymore, just like anybody else cannot, and you will be prosecuted. But let us help you, right? And we're giving them that choice. And so when they make that choice as a free citizen, well, then there it is. So that is how we bring that balance there. And in terms of the lawlessness, we talked about the prosecutors. Our law enforcement officials are ready to execute. But here's something after talking to, just as recent as Sunday.
Choose a different word.
From law enforcement officers.
That'll be taken out of context right there.
Well, I would just say
what?
What I would just say, our police officers are and again, I'm good. I'm comfortable with the definitions as they're intended to be. But
I understood what you meant.
Just
Elaborate.
So, but with our police officers, they need to be supported.
Yes.
They need to have the resources to do the job. We cannot legislatively restrict them from doing their job. Because when you make these laws that they made an assumption that law enforcement, that police officers set out to do wrong. They make an assumption of that.
Right.
Presumed guilt versus a person who maybe dreams to be a police officer someday as a child and achieves that dream. And then here they are there to protect and to serve.
But they're not allowed to. And they're labeled. They're labeled as somehow, whether it's racist or this. And by the way, folks, police officers come in all shapes, sizes, colors, right? Let's just remember that. But no, they need to be supported both legislatively, right, and financially. And I can go on and on. So solutions. There's two ways to become a police officer in Washington State. You either go through the process of civil service, you become a law enforcement officer, you go to the academy, or lateral transfer. I think we should incentivize. You mean from another state?
Yeah, from another state.
Yep.
Because we're short right now. So we need to incentivize. We need to make sure law enforcement officers understand that they're protected to do their job. So they respond to a call. They don't have to be walking in eggshells as they're responding to a call to which their life is in danger, right? They need to have their head in the game, and I know this right? Being in combat, being in that stack, kicking in the door at Old Dark 30. I mean,
you don't got time for.
There's no times to stop
eggshell
and question,
nuance. Yeah.
No, or to question whether you're there. You know to do the right thing. You do the right thing. There's Martin Luther King Jr. used to say, "It's always the right time to do the right thing." That always comes to mind. And I believe our law enforcement officers, our police officers, want to do the right thing in all times. We do have those one-offs, and they will and should be held accountable without a doubt. But we have to support them. We have to remove the stigma, because think about that stigma. Who wants to be a law enforcement officer when you label them as racist or bullies?
By default, yeah.
Right, by default. I mean, it's like, so that's going to kill retention. It's going to kill recruitment and that pipeline to get people who want it. So we need to change that, and there's ways to do it. That was just one, to incentivize. Retain, incentivize. Recruit, much of the same. But similar to recruitment, we have a pipeline from freshman year of high school all the way through graduation. So they start earning credits, not just to become a law enforcement officer, a police officer, or a sheriff, but also for trades, to get them into trades, good apprenticeship programs, certifications. So computer forensics or any other computer security, any other certification, let's get them credits starting at their freshman year. And they're on a trajectory. They're still learning the basics, right? English language arts, math, and science. But yet now at that secondary stage of education, we're setting them up for success so that they have a future.
Right.
Unlike where we're at now, whereas in our school system now,
you can't read, whatever, good luck.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
And specifically to the statistics, currently only 50.7% of all students met grade level standards for English and language arts. Only 37.7% of our students make grade level standards for math.
That's wild.
And only 42.7% made grade level standards for science, but yet we graduate them at an 82 or an 80% rate. We're turning out students who have failed academic standards. So we're going to fix that. So we're going to pipeline to trades so that they have a future, because not everybody wants to go to college, and we are short on certified and trade qualified individuals. But also, there's so much we can do in terms of fixing our education system. I believe it starts with school choice, leveling that playing field, bringing in that competition. And for my mom, right, a young black woman with 7 children who couldn't afford to put one child into a private school unless they got a grant. And I was fortunate enough, being the baby, my sister and I, we got a grant. We had Catholic Charities, and we were able to go to a good school and a nice neighborhood, right? It was a blessing. But families can't afford that. So don't these marginalized communities deserve a quality education? So school choice levels the playing field. The money follows the backpack, and parents get to make the decision as to where their children go to get educated.
Dangerous language there, man. Parents making the decision. What planet are you on?
Exactly. and you know, and on that point, literally, it's a natural right for parents to have parents' rights. It's a constitutional right for parents to have parents' rights. And what you alluded to, brother, you're on point. We're living in a time now. I believe today, the Southern Poverty Law Center just labeled Moms for Liberty organization that is there,
white supremacists,
right,
yeah,
as an extremist organization. This is a group of individuals that brings forth and calls for accountability in the education system. How does that make them
pretty extreme?
Right,
that's pretty extreme, right there.
It is extreme from the extreme, is what it is, right? So when you have this extreme concept of schools there to indoctrinate and groom children, and we can talk about 5599 Senate bill that was just passed, where a child can run away from home and get this reproductive care, which includes as young as 13, where they change their sex. They start that gender-affirming care. All these fancy phrases. Folks, that's a permanent decision at an age in which they cannot vote. They cannot buy booze. They cannot buy a pack of smokes. They cannot serve their nation.
Can't get a driver's license.
They can't get a driver's license.
Can't sign a contract. Yeah.
But in our wisdom, these career politicians, your elected officials, have deemed them qualified to change their sex. And let me say this. I love everyone. And I say it publicly and I say it proudly. If you're LGBTQ, and I know it's AI+, I got it, I don't discriminate. I know what discrimination is. I love you. I love all. This is America. You have your opportunity to be happy in your own right, and you deserve that. But children are children. Let children be children. Let parents parent. And guess what, folks? our children don't belong to the government. They belong to those families. They belong to parents. And so we're at a very dangerous point. That bill was just signed, within 30 days ago. Very close proximity to where this attorney general and governor also took our Second Amendment rights away, right? In Washington State, that's Article 1, Section 24. So we're on this precipice. And our civil rights, again, I'm going to state it clearly for everybody out there, it doesn't matter what your color is. It doesn't matter what your religion is. It doesn't matter how much money you have. Civil rights are civil rights. Civil liberties are civil liberties. Mm-hmm. And the Constitution is the Constitution. So if we're not going to uphold, if we're not going to protect, we're not going to maintain, then get out of the way and make room for someone else who does have the intestinal fortitude and personal courage to serve the citizens of Washington State.
Let's segue that to the next one. So you mentioned the legislature giving bad laws, for example, to the police. As the governor, you don't get to write laws.
No.
That's the whole concept, right?
Yeah.
So with this agenda that you have, how are you going to approach it from the executive position? You're not the legislature.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to, little correction. So under Article 3 of the Washington State Constitution, I love the Constitution. I read it every day. Studying for a test, but I read it every day. No, under Article 3, I can produce, I can write, and I can present. I can even call legislature together and present, right?
This was my follow-up question.
No, and that's good. No, you're on it, brother. I got you. I'm with you.
Yeah.
So, no, I can. I mean, you just have to, will you have a governor that will take the job seriously? And that's very open-ended, but who will actually do the job and do what needs to be done to protect and maintain the civil rights and the constitutional rights of our citizens.
Well, and I want to clarify, we joked back and forth, but I don't think someone watching this is going, what are they laughing about, right? Is according to the Washington State Constitution, the governor has the right or the privilege, whatever you want to say, in the Constitution, to bring bills to the legislature, and the legislature has to receive them. They don't have to pass them, but they have to receive them.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And so you don't have to be a senator or representative to do it. The governor can, right? It just depends on whether the governor wants to, right, or is willing to. I do, I am, and I will, right? And then I can also call under the Constitution special sessions. And so it's utilizing my power to give power back to the people. That's really it.
For example, not saying that this would happen, let's say you win and you say, okay, I'm going to declare the state of emergency. You can then turn around and say, okay, special session for this crime legislation that you need to consider. Now, go.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, and here's the other thing that's added to that. I want it televised. So I want it televised. I want it out there, and again, call it government TV. I said this on another show recently. It was interesting. But I said the People's TV, and China. Okay, no. Call it whatever you want to call it. But let's be transparent with the citizens of Washington State. Because I do not believe, again, regardless of how you identify, parents by mass would not willingly support a law that would support hiding their children from them, right? Allowing gender therapy on their children without consulting them, right? As young as 13. I don't think most parents would allow that.
It doesn't matter what side of the spectrum they're on.
It doesn't matter what side. It doesn't matter what your party is. It's just parents' rights. And that's what we have to get away from, this politicizing everything and dividing along everything. This is just common sense. It's human decency. No, I will bring it forward. We will televise it. We'll make sure people understand what's happening, and then let those representatives and those senators put their arguments out there on the floor so that everybody can see how they're arguing and what they're arguing
and
for.
how they're voting,
and how they're voting, right? Because I'm just going to say it. There's a lot of self-serving politicians out there, right? And I'm not at war with anybody. I'm just calling it for what it is, right? And so, no, I think when people are being held accountable,
when everyone's watching, behavioral psychologists if someone's watching you, suddenly your behavior changes.
That's it. No, it is. It really is, and that's literally, and you hit it right in the head. I know better, right? And that's just how it is. When all eyes are upon you, you'll act your best. It's like on social media, right? You can bully anybody into suicide and do all kinds of crazy things like that, and you can be the tough guy. You can use all those good words. You would never say that face to face with someone, right? And so this is the same thing. Accountability is important in government, and so these are things that I can do. while respecting the law, respecting the rule of law, respecting our Constitution, always. And it's important for people to understand, when you understand the concept of self-governance and the Constitution, how important it doesn't always work your way, right? I mean, you could say, I'm for this, and I'm for that, and I'm for this. Well, the Constitution is the Constitution, which means it doesn't discriminate. Right. It is for all citizens. And if the citizens come together and say, we want this, and this small group of citizens say, I don't want that, well, the law is the law, and the Constitution is the Constitution.
This is not mob rule.
It's not mob rule, and you cannot bend it. And even as a conservative, a Republican governor, which, again, it's just, I'm happy to explain what that means, but I'm in service to all the citizens. I'm in service to that Constitution for all of the citizens, and then there's the difference, right? Not imposing my will or my opinion or my beliefs in other people, right? That sounds almost like a monarchy, right? Or a banana republic. No, we're a constitutional republic. I take that seriously.
Absolutely. What are you going to do about the fact that the mainstream media seems to be doing its best to ignore you?
Yeah. You know, it's funny. And they do, and they were. And I just did an interview, and the interviewer did her very best to just bring as much dirt as they could. And you know what? The truth is the truth. I don't run from it. I don't hide from it. But if you're going to take your talking points from a far left, regressive, progressive person who was targeting you as a school board director, and that is your basis for bringing forth. Anyway, it's not.
I have a quick rant. I'm really sorry.
Oh, no.
Okay. Sammy, here's this thing from 30 years ago that might stain your reputation. How do you address that? Meanwhile, I'm going to completely ignore the fact that Jay Inslee just signed this bill into law that, you know, the minors can get sexual changes when they're 13 without their parents' permission, and then there's no more public notices for registered sex offenders getting. We don't care about that, but this thing 30 years ago that might shine you in this light that isn't perfect.
Oh, let's talk about that.
Well, we need to talk about that right now.
That's important. Not what you're going to do, how you're going to serve the people, but that. And I get that. That's the establishment. That's the game, right? Yeah. It gets news, and we make money, or we get whatever subscriptions. I don't besmirch people, and bless their hearts. I'm going to answer the question with truth and honesty. And when you want to throw a little quip at the very end to further vilify me when I'm not there to defend myself, well, you go right ahead.
Yep.
Because people see this stuff. They know what's going on. And they recognize, as you said, the establishment media, who will say we're unbiased, right? We're objective.
There's no such thing.
There is no.
This is not unbiased.
Right?
I am not unbiased.
Right?
I'm doing my best to say, okay, here's the objectivity, and let me tell you what my bias is, so you can try to subtract it out.
Oh, absolutely.
But there's no such thing as unbiased.
No,
get out of here.
No, and to act like you are. But anyway, so that it's okay with me, and here's why. What they don't understand. So again, I'm a strategist. And being a strategist and a behavioral scientist, you understand people, and you understand methodology as to accomplish your mission, right? With or without certain infrastructure support. And in this case, there is nothing more powerful than the people of this country and the citizens of Washington State. So no matter what the media biases, no matter what the establishment does, right, you can go softball on this candidate and then try to hammer this candidate, right, who actually served and bled for his country, by the way, right? You go right ahead.
You can make him look better because
right? You can go right ahead, but the people are smart enough to see through the establishment attacks. And so we are going directly to the people. That's why I work every single day on this. And I bring my family with me whenever I can, because we're very, very close. We love each other. We could stay in a cave and be happy forever. My family, my wife, my daughter, my other two babies are grown. But my point is, we are taking our message to the people. And it's evidenced by our donations. And it was interesting, when my opponent, and I don't like to refer to him as an opponent because I think he's a nice man who's running for office as well as a Republican, and I do respect him. When he came in, right, and by the way, I'm going to digress. Everybody, do you notice how when Jay Inslee triggered everybody else, right? Jay Inslee says, I'm not running. Bob jumps. Hillary jumps. Raul jumps, right? They all jump, right? Mike Mullet jumps. They're all playing to the button pusher. Jay Inslee, he made it. Well, I didn't jump to that. I jumped to my own strategy. We jumped November on Veterans Day after paying respect to our veterans. So again, I'm not controlled or puppeted by anybody. I have the knowledge, skills, and abilities and the strategy to win an election, and we will, because we're taking it to the people. So that's how we overcome the media. And it was funny because this media person, I'm not sure if that's the proper, but this show, she said, yeah, all of your people were calling in and saying, why aren't you interviewing Simi? I didn't put them up to that. These are people who saw. This is why I give credit to the people, because you can bring all your bias, you can bring all of those games forward. People see it as it is, and they were asking. Not, I wasn't me going, hey, can you please call this show and ask them that? No, I got too many things to do. I'm on the streets. I'm knocking on doors. I just met with Black leaders yesterday, and doing a studio shoot in Federal Way, and I will tell you, I mean, there were several beautiful people in that room, and they validated my soul. And that's a strong thing to say, because, again, I am what I am, and I'm proud that God blessed me the way God blessed me, right? And to get validation from people who are leaving politics aside and bringing people and the needs of people to the discussion, which is what happened yesterday, it filled my soul because I knew I was not alone. I knew I was not alone when I said I want to bring Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream back, right, of equality and opportunity for all American citizens, right, because poverty is not racist. We have poor people suffering just as well as we have Black people suffering, and Hispanic, we can go on, right? We have to get away from the labels, the weaponization of labels and language and the psychological operations that are conducted by the establishment and the far left groups who are literally trying to dismantle America, dismantle our constitutional republic. And the only way they can successfully do that is by dividing us.
Well, and then I don't want to give the far left all the credit. We've got some, let's call them wolf in sheep clothing right groups that go along with them just fine, right? Yeah.
Oh, yes, I'm seeing that right now. And I will say this. Folks, we've been getting played from both sides, the left and the right. From both sides, we've been getting played. Because you have these special interest groups, and they're more concerned about themselves and their special interest. I default, again, to the Constitution and the people that the Constitution serves to protect, right? And so I'm bringing something new. That puts me sometimes, not from my choice, but opposite of the establishment. I'm not backed by them. I don't take that personal. I'm not your guy, right? And I wouldn't be your guy, even if you asked me, because if you can buy me, I shouldn't be anywhere near a public office. If you can control me, I have people even telling me, Simi, will you say this? Well, I'll say it if I think it's the right thing to say, but you're not going to pressure me to say it to get votes. No, I will not. Right?
Will you read this thing verbatim like Ron Burgundy?
Oh, yeah.
I'll give you $1 million.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not your Huckleberry, right? Because I'm an independent thinker, and that's that same thing we were talking about, not giving certain groups all the attention. But when you talk about diversity and inclusion, well, I have an independent thought as a Black man too, right? My thought is,
how dare you?
Yes, right? I am a Black man born in the ghetto without civil rights, but you know what? I'm an American.
Yeah.
I'm an American with constitutional rights, and I'm proud of that. And so I have different opinions. Where's my diversity? Where's my inclusion? Because you'll find with these groups, as we alluded to with Tim Scott and the View the other day, and as soon as Tim Scott announced, they're making up ways to somehow
put him down,
vilify him, Democrat. Hey, maybe going back 30 or 40 years and something. I'm just saying, but they'll find a way because he doesn't align with the establishment message, right? And so, now a Black man who has conservative values, who supports parents' rights, who supports law and order, who supports the Constitution, somehow we're no longer Black. You see how ridiculous that is.
You are the black face of white supremacy.
Or that, Larry Elder, right? And so, but these are the groups who divide us. I'm not going to be on that other side that says, you're Democrat, you're bad. I would never say such a thing. I've got too many family members. Most of my family are Democrats, and I love them with all my heart. And again, I want people to vote for me who are Democrats. I'm saying that. Right? I want independents to vote for me. I want you to vote for me not because of what our party tells us, but what your heart tells you.
Let's talk about party.
Yes.
So, media doing its best to ignore you.
Yep.
It also looks like the Republican Party is doing its best to not support you on top of it.
Yeah.
How you gonna navigate those waters?
Oh, I'm actually, not to be cocky, but to be confident. I'm quite comfortable with it, and here's why. I served as a precinct committee officer. And for folks who don't know what that is, it's just someone who believes in the Constitution. They belong to a party, and they go out and they knock on doors, and they try to advocate for candidates, whether it's school board or commissioner or councilor or whatever, or sheriff. And so I spent a lot of time being a PCO, right? So I've been a part of the party. I've been a party chairman, still am actually.
Okay.
I'm putting in work. I believe, and I'm sure we'll talk about what that means to me. But the PCOs, they are the backbone of the Republican Party.
Well, of any party.
Of any party.
Yeah.
And I would say the Democrat Party as well, because they're the ones who represent the people in those precincts. They represent the citizens. I've been taking my voice to them, my message to them, and they have been welcoming me in. And I'm feeling that love. And so whatever the party does, I'm very secure knowing that the people who are more influential and matter most to me are there to support me. And if they did and they supported someone else, well, bless them on that too. In a very good way. This is America.
Well, I think there's something to that too. Sorry to interrupt you. Is that we should be in a position where, okay, there's you, and you, you're all running. I got my favorite, but if somebody wins, best of luck to them to do the best job possible. Not, okay, you're Jesus and you're the devil.
Yeah.
And the other side goes, well, you're the devil and you're Jesus. Yeah. and that's the end of it, right?
Yeah. No, it's so here's what's happening right now, to your point, within the party. We have this new candidate process that they put together. We're going to have a convention of sorts. And conceptually, that sounds great. But it's patently flawed. You're going to endorse someone April of 2024.
Before the primary.
Right before the primary. You should be endorsing the year before so that you can leverage those resources, get united behind one candidate who has the best chance of winning.
Particularly in the jungle primary.
Especially in the jungle primary. But in their wisdom, and again, I'm not saying this to vilify or to challenge them or to insult them. They mean well. They tried, at least they brought something. But they're putting all their eggs in that basket, but the process is too delayed. And so that is why I did not wait. That's why I came out in November of 2022, right? 6 months ago, so I can get out there and start talking to people. Now I need it every day of that time, which is why I work 7 days a week, driving all over the state, spending a fair amount of time in King County, Pierce County, and Snohomish County. Not that all the other counties don't matter, because they do. But this is often, this is the epicenter, right, of population.
It's where all the people are.
Right? And that's traditionally, there's a huge amount of votes that we need to convince people of our message and who we are.
Well, and I wanted to bring up the Bermuda Triangle between King County, Snohomish County, and Pierce County. So we're in Snohomish County now. Yep. And, I guess if you take Snohomish and Pierce and add them up, you get King as well. So, roughly 3 million, 2.5, 3 million people we're talking about in a population, in a state with a population of like 8.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're 40% of the population is right here. Obviously, we don't want to say that the other counties don't matter, but we can do math.
Yeah.
Right? Huh. Right. Is that this is where most of the people are. And from my understanding, if we look at the Lauren Culp campaign, he really didn't spend a lot of time in those 3 counties. So, the question is, how are you going to attract the people in these 3 counties, the independents, the left-leaners, Democrat moms, black people,
oh, yes.
LGBT community, the Hispanics. How are you going to attract the people in this area?
Yeah, going to them.
Yeah.
So here's the mistake. When you're running for office, you're running to serve people. You're not running to have them serve you. So similar when you're campaigning, you're in that service mindset. I go to them, right? I will walk in the field as they're preparing the crops, right? And when they take their lunch, right, and we're sitting down, they break out the comal and we're getting the tortillas, right? I will sit down with them and we'll have fellowship and we'll have a conversation because they need to hear from me. They deserve to know who I am, and they deserve to have me go to them, right? It's the same thing with the black community. I told you we had a wonderful meeting yesterday, and that was very near and dear and very personal for me. But, oh, my Lord, encouraging, very encouraging, because they want the same thing.
Are they getting fed up?
Oh, my goodness. Yes, they are. I'm not going to betray Dress in this, but I told them, so I already know in case they listen to your show, but it was amazing. And it was so encouraging that you have this group of people, my group, who are labeled, right? And so all of a sudden black folks think this. You don't know what we think.
Yeah.
And guess what? We're all free thinkers in America.
We're still individuals. Yeah.
We're still individuals.
Yeah.
We want safe streets. We want better education for our kids. We want opportunity. We want jobs. You know, Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream speech, August 28th, 1963. And that march was for jobs and freedom. Nothing gives anyone more freedom than a good paying job, right? Nothing breaks a person down than to subjugate them to poverty with a broken welfare system that pays them just enough money to stay poor for the rest of their life.
Not quite starved to death.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And then it becomes generational. So you want to talk about oppression, subjugation, I can give you that. I can talk about a progressive plantation, if you will, and break it down and educate. What I say is these are good people who want the same civil liberties as anyone else. You know, a gay person is just as patriotic as a straight person, I believe. And I'm never going to discriminate against them. And I told people, a person messaged me at the very beginning of my campaign on social media, on Facebook, and he was so kind. First, he was very direct, right? Very hard at me, you know. And I says, I support LGBTQ community, meaning you have a constitutional right to be protected, right? And
regardless of my opinions and whatever you did, you still have rights, and I got to respect those.
Well, you do have rights. I don't live that life, but I mean, I respect you living that life and having happiness and freedom to do as you wish. That's America. My only thing is let children be children, right? And if a child presents as being gay, then I will love that child just like any other child. Just don't bring that to them. Don't train or indoctrinate them.
Open up their mouth and shove it down their throat.
Exactly. So, no, I do not discriminate against any community. I welcome them in, and I am going to them. You know, it's just like Gays Against Groomers stood against 5599, right? That bill that again, that gender-affirming care as young as 13. These are Gays Against Groomers. They proved people are people, and they care. They want to protect children, not groom them or over-sexualize them. That's happening right now. And if you dare disagree, you become a homophobe, or you become a racist, or you become a bigot. That is a standard operating practice. That's a psychological operation that has been used by the far-left progressive operatives to label, to divide, and to attack. We have to recognize that. I gave a lecture on this at a wonderful place, Motion Church, and just a few days ago. So we're educating people. And to answer your question, I'm going to my brothers and sisters. I'm going to the people that I hope to serve in 2024, 2025, well, starting 2025. I'm going to them, and I'm applying. I'm asking them to support. I'm answering their questions so they know who I am. I want them to know what my knowledge, skills, and abilities are. And I'm telling them straight up what I will do and what I won't do, just like I did in a school board, right? They're trying to recall me because I fought against the mask mandate. And when I say I fought against the mask mandate, and we facilitated mask choice for our students who had the highest suicide rate, mental illness and mental health issues going through the roof, lost learning, right? Anxiety, depression, I can go on and on. Children's lives were at stake. And I led a vote to ensure that we gave equity to those students and parents that were on the other side of masking, right?
Right.
I think it was an unconstitutional overreach, and abuse of power.
Well, the CDC just agrees with you, like, oh, yeah, by the way, the masks, they didn't do anything.
They never worked. No, they never worked. But you know what? That didn't stop them from still trying to recall me to the tune of, what, $100,000 or $200,000 out of the school budget. It was never.
They used the school budget to recall.
They did. Oh, brother, yes. That's how
is that legal?
Oh, hypocrisy.
How is that legal?
Oh, no. They're advocating for students and families. That's what they're doing, as they say, right? So this, again, is the hypocrisy when you see it, when the truth, and this is the foundation of our messaging, is truth, facts, and integrity. Because they say that, but there's a reality. And that actually came out during a school board meeting. The leader of the recall said, we are going to fix the mistake that was the election. Meaning myself.
You were the mistake?
Yes, I was the mistake. And another very, very amazing, brave young lady.
Sounds like Google talking about Trump in 2016.
Oh, no. Well, it was, right? I was a mistake because we won. And I did every single thing I promised, everything, to include mask choice. So it's not something that I made up or that I did for political reasons. I promised. The people elected me there to do a job and to honor my word. How is that rocket science for people? How do politicians make promises during the election? They get elected, and they get amnesia. That's a lack of character and a lack of integrity. There's no excuses for that.
Why they call them empty suits?
Oh,
right?
That's it.
Yeah.
So, folks, if you elect me, guess what? I'm going to do exactly what I said I'm going to do because you elected me to do that. And that's everybody. And I said something the other day that I don't believe in ghettos. And someone said, what does that mean? Well, we live in the 21st century. We're the land of opportunity and prosperity, right? Why do we have some communities that have lawlessness?
That are like third world.
That are like third world. That should never happen. I mean, how can you preside over a state when you have communities that are suffering, but yet they don't hesitate to change and to take state funds for illegal immigration, right, or refugees? What about the people in those marginalized communities who have been there their entire lives, right? Those career Americans. Mm-hmm. Do they not deserve the resources? So there's things that we have to fix in Washington State. And I'm saying I'm going to do it because it's the right thing to do. And again, my childhood idol and role model, Martin Luther King Jr., it's always the right time to do the right thing. That's what we're bringing in 2024.
I want to go back to the Bermuda Triangle again because you brought up Martin Luther King a lot. I'm going to bring up Malcolm X.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
I actually like Malcolm. Well, I mean, he's dead. I don't like him anymore. He's not around. But I like listening to him. And I read his autobiography. I mean, it was put together by Alex Haley, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. And there's something in there that he mentioned, and that I guess he was profuse about at the time, is he said, Black Americans don't recognize that due to the way that the demographics are set up between the two parties, if they got together and acted as a unit, they'd control who won every time.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Yes. And right now, the Democratic Party just assumes that they get their vote.
Yes.
Right? And then whether you think that the Democrats should win or you think the Republicans should win, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is that if they recognize, hey, if we actually have demands, if we work together, we could get them like that.
Oh, beautifully said, Dylan. It's the power of the people. And right there, if we can unite, if we come together as communities, and we want this for our community, and we find a candidate who we believe will do that, right? Not the same career politicians, because we have this aristocracy on the left as well. You know, we had Jay Inslee, we had Bob Ferguson, and everybody knows, Bob Ferguson is probably the more dangerous than Jay Inslee ever was.
Right. I'll vote Hillary Franz over Bob Ferguson every day of the week, man.
Of course, right? If we had no choice. In this case, I know you'll vote for Simeon. I'm just saying. But I'm going to earn it.
I'm just trying to dogpile on Ferguson. It's right there.
But that's actually true. And so when we look at, to your point, it's when communities come together. That's the game changer. This is also why I'm going out there to earn their vote, not to give up. Again, there is this psyop out there, psychological operation, and this misinformation that people think that Black people or Asian people or Hispanic people think a certain way and are this way. These minority groups don't speak for whole communities, just like I don't, right? But I know what I know because I'm the kid from that community, right? You can't take that away, right? As much as they try. Right? If you want to go back 30 years and focus on a dark spot, let's go back to the kid born without civil rights and ask me how my journey was coming forward.
Right.
Why I'm a conservative, why I'm a Republican. And to that point, I'm the party of 1854, Abraham Lincoln, Frederick Douglass, right? The party that was formed by Christians coming from the Whig Party to form the Republican Party with the sole mission of abolishing the evil that was slavery. That mission was accomplished, right? And we're going to be celebrating Juneteenth here pretty soon. And people need to understand what Juneteenth really means. Please Google it and look it up. It's an American holiday. It's not just a Black holiday. This was the day that the Union went into Texas to free slaves that had no idea that they were still, that they were free, right?
Right. It was 2 years after the fact.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's like, that was the true independence and liberty of slavery, the end of slavery right there. That should be something all Americans celebrate, not just Black folks. And so these are truths that we need to bring out so people understand. We're not as divided. But when you have special interest groups on both sides and they're playing that divisive card and they're pitting us against it, it goes back to what you're saying. If we clear the smoke and mirrors, all the gaslighting and virtue signaling, right, and psychological operations, and we seek the truth, and here I am going them to give them my truth, which is the truth. There's only one. This is how we win back our state, united.
Yeah.
Right? United as career Americans. And again, I'm using that term. And I know people will say, well, that's just a republic. No, it's not. It's the concept of anybody and everybody born in this nation or came to this nation legally and have made their own struggle every day, just like anybody else, falling down and guiding back up. These are what I mean by career Americans. We're out there trying to make it. We're trying to take care of our family. I take that very seriously. So I guess not only am I the non-establishment candidate, I'm the politically unorthodox candidate because I default back to old school, right? I want to redefine what the Republican Party is, right? The party of fiscal responsibility, the party of parents' rights, the party of civil rights. I mean, we need to bring this back, and we need to
Republican as in republic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're a constitutional republic. So
not as in invade every country that.
Oh no, and then there's that
looks
as
at
well.
us the wrong way.
No, absolutely. So
which isn't your problem as the governor, but
right. But I will tell you this: I will be the most qualified governor. I mean, we've never had a governor that understands international policy more than I do, right? Global security more than I do, border security more than I do. And I'm not being cocky. Again, I know what I know, and I know who we've had serve, right? So this is a different animal that you're going to get. You're going to get someone with a resume who's actually done that, who's actually served and bled for his nation, right? And so how's that for a concept when someone is willing to put themselves out there? And in terms of intestinal fortitude, I became a Special Forces Green Beret at age 43. I was a 43-year-old man when I became a Green Beret, and it wasn't correspondence, right?
Yeah.
And so that means I'm determined. That means I'm confident. That started with my family. I will say that the breakdown of America, as we see it right now, stems from the breakdown of the American family. And again, that American family, all races, all colors, all religions, we as a state, I as a governor, would do anything, everything that I can to protect and maintain the health and welfare of the American family, the families, the Washington state families. That's where the focus has to be. That's why I support school choice. And when I say support school choice, to level the playing field so impoverished moms and dads can afford to put their children in good schools, right? I am not going to give up on our public education system. We're just going to bring accountability.
That should clean it up.
It should clean it up.
Because then if the money is chasing the quality, then there's an incentive to increase quality.
To perform, and to perform to academic standards, not social engineering standards or indoctrination standards. We need to get back to the purpose of the education system. That education system serves children, families, and the communities in which they function. We forgot that. Children don't belong to the state. Neither do the schools. The schools belong to the communities. It's not the state that pays the bonds. It's not the states that pay the levy. It's those citizens, those taxpayers in those specific communities. And so, again, I'm just bringing common sense so that people can understand this is how it was supposed to be. This is how we're supposed to function. We owe it to those families, those children, those taxpayers to ensure accountability in our education system. You said it beautifully, Dylan. This will not only equal that playing field, it will bring competition and challenge the education system to perform better. And I have an opportunity to appoint 7 of the 14 Board of Education commissioners. I will take advantage of that opportunity to ensure that we have the right people in the right position to get the right results, creating an education system that this state can be proud of, an education system that will be the gold standard for the rest of the United States. And I shoot high. I could almost say the world, and that's shooting high.
That's what
we do.
Shoot for the stars, hit the moon.
That's it. Yep. That's it. So, vision, mission, strategy, planning, and execution.
So I got one more thing on the Bermuda Triangle before I leave it, because I mean it's such an important point, because if you win, you do the things you say. If you don't, then you don't. Right?
Yeah.
So it's funny you brought up Texas and this slavery thing, right, where the Republican Party came in. It popped up on my YouTube recommendation list to. There's these recordings of slaves, former slaves. You know, they're like 98 or 102 or whatever, like, I remember when I was 7 and the Civil War broke. That sort of thing, right? And this former slave was actually pointing out, I was in Texas, and we didn't know until 2 years after the fact, right? And what I wanted to get at is there's this story that there's marginalized communities that are underprivileged because of what happened to their ancestors and what they inherited. And it's and then the solution to that is to take the money from them and give it to the people with money and give it to them. Well, I don't agree with that solution, and I think people who get frustrated with that will harp on this is America. Everybody has opportunity. Whatever, which is true. But I do want to. I think there is something to point out to say, okay, when these people got freed, it wasn't a good time.
Yes.
I mean, you imagine, not only don't you not have any skills, you've been trained your whole life. If you open your mouth, we will whip you.
Yes.
And then, okay, you're on the other side of the fence now. Go be free.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, a lot of the former slaves in these interviews were saying, I knew a lot of guys that didn't want to be free.
Yeah.
They didn't know what to do.
Yes.
Right? And then, okay, turn that into Jim Crow, turn that into the segregation policies. And then there was this thing that came out, Jay Inslee was, happily sign this into law about, I forgot the specifics, if you're in Washington State or King County or something, because at some point, property deeds before civil rights would exclude things by race, and of course it was white, right? At first I didn't believe it. I looked it up. I'm like, okay, I found it. It was there. But I think this does elucidate the point. If we do go back and say, okay, here's what was inherited, there is such a thing as you got dealt a bad hand. Yeah. Right? Now, I disagree that only the former slaves got dealt that bad hand. There's other people get dealt bad hands too.
Absolutely.
But I think there is something to address when you're saying, okay, some people do get dealt bad hands. However, is the solution to just take money from somebody else and give it to them?
No. Yeah.
What's the solution to address that group of people within the Bermuda Triangle?
No, thank you so much. And I just want to say God bless you for that. Because, we come from this place where we as conservatives say, well, we're colorblind, right? And that's a good intention, which means that we don't see color. We don't discriminate. That I understand what that really means. But you cannot change the fact if you're born black, you're born black, right? I mean, yes, we're Americans, but until you wear that, you don't know, right? So you acknowledge something that it was beautiful. Going back, you're right. Slavery didn't stop on a dime, although it was ended, right? Racism.
The legal institution
ended, but that
problem.
That train kept
morphed.
Trying to coast, through Dr. King into the 60s, 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
I mean, so it didn't just stop. And the fact that you brought that up here, I just want to say thank you for that. Again, to bring truth to people to understand that there are things that set groups behind and have been trying to play catch up for decades, right? I mean, that the answer is not just to take, okay, you had this because you're white, so we're going to take. No, you can't do that. It's like
the homeless thing. You're just giving.
Yeah.
Not that giving money is like giving needles, but like, we're going to fix the problem by giving you more needles.
Yeah.
No, we got to fix the problem by making you a human being that can achieve things.
So here's what I will say is, again, no, you don't do that because it's wrong. It's un-American, and I was right at saying it's wrong. But I'm going to speak for me. As a black man, a proud American, I don't need anything. I don't want anything. I can get mine, right? If I was starting off with nothing again today, I would say just make sure there are opportunities. Make sure there are no barriers. Make sure that there's a pathway to the American dream. And the office of the governor can do things. I mean, we can partner with black communities, Hispanic communities. Again, poverty is not racist. Everyone suffers at some point in time in their lives. So it's not just to certain groups. But to your point, talking about the history from slavery to today, yes, it's almost like a race where, 20 years later, you go, okay, go, right? And these folks have already been out there doing what they can. My point is opportunity zones. Tim Scott presented that to President Trump and initiated that, where we incentivize businesses in these communities to revitalize these communities, to invest in these communities, to bring quality education in these communities, to bring mentorship programs. Because in the inner city, impoverished communities, you don't have engineers, scientists, professors necessarily living in those communities. So children are growing up in the community, and we know we're a product of our environment. So it's semi-burdensome.
That kid could be a professor or a scientist.
Absolutely.
But never
has the
opportunity.
Because didn't know and didn't see that light, did not have that trajectory. I'm bringing that trajectory. I'm just going to say this. I'm bringing that trajectory. And again, I'm a fiscal conservative. So imagine this. You raise people out of poverty. They're paying taxes. They're paying into that community.
Well, and they're producing stuff.
Profit. Yes, they're producing.
Stuff. I mean, there's money, and then there's what does the money buy?
That's it.
Right?
That's it. That's it.
Money is actually nothing, right?
And
you got to have something to buy with it.
No, you're right. It goes back to give them a fish, you feed them for a day. Teach them how to fish, you feed them for a lifetime. But you need to make sure they have access to the pond. Right? And that's all I'm saying. And so I don't want to seem like I'm this activist anything. It is who I am. It is what I'll do, and it will create value for all Washington citizens, right? And there's other programs for everyone. So to your point, and again, I just want to say thank you for that, for acknowledging that. It really shows your class and intelligence. But to acknowledge what has not been acknowledged by the Republican Party. I've never heard Republicans talk like this before, but to me, in my heart, this is a Republican-led initiative. It will be under this governor. We are going to invest. We're going to bring those mentorship programs. We're going to bring better education, because education is another education and employment. That's a freedom right there. Every race is qualified to success and excellence within their own right. That is divine, right? That's not political. It's just divine. We're all blessed with the opportunity to reach our full potential based on who we are. You alluded to that earlier. We just need to make sure as a state that we are not interfering. I remember when I was back east, I was visiting with Winsome Sears, Lieutenant Governor, a few months ago, and she had just came off of visiting the inner city as well, and she was talking to a black deacon, and he says, just tell the government to stay the heck out of our way, stay out of our business, and leave us alone, right? Let us free. Let us free, right? And
strange concept.
Right, yeah. Strange concept, because if you stop and you think about what this group over here has been bringing, right? And again, I don't like to use labels because I don't want to sound like a hypocrite when I say progressives, which are regressing us back to segregation and slavery.
They're promoting it.
They're promoting it.
Yeah.
And that's what I refer to as a progressive plantation, right? And so for those of us who choose not to reside, right, who choose freedom in America, that's what I want to bring as governor for Washington State. When we talk about that triangle you refer to, I'm saying it publicly what I'm going to do, because we're going to offer America to all career Americans. We all deserve it. We all earned it. That was our blessing of citizenship. And so we just want to make sure that we're bringing that balance. We're not taking from anyone. We're not. I would tell you this, if we ran the numbers, it's going to enrich the state, as you alluded to again, when people are not taking from state through a broken welfare system, and all of a sudden they have a good paying job, they have a career, and they're buying stuff and they're paying taxes. I promise you this. Those coffers will fill. You're not only doing something that soothes the soul because it's just the right thing to do. You're doing something that's not just creating value for fellow citizens. You're creating value for all citizens. When you elevate one person out of poverty, everybody benefits from that. And I'm talking financially as well. Those communities do, and we do as a state. So it's a novel concept to say, we're not going to discriminate. We're not going to give privilege, but we're going to invest in those communities who we have not invested in like we should have for decades or maybe forever, and just sit back and just see what happens, because it's going to be a beautiful thing. And again, this is not a black or brown or a white thing. This is an American thing. This is a Washington State thing. My vision is one Washington, which is why our campaign is all about unity, all about solutions with actions. I'm about putting people over politics, knowing that we get played by both parties. And I'm saying, if you're independent-minded, you want to think on your own, you believe what I believe of what we can do. We may not agree on everything, but let's focus on what we can agree upon and start getting some stuff done.
Get some stuff done, yeah.
And I'm bringing term limits too. So, and I'll start with me, right? I get in there, maybe 2 terms, right? 2 terms, first year.
I think that was a big thing the founders didn't recognize when they put the Constitution together.
Exactly.
Well, if they're good, they'll just keep getting voted for. Oh, wait, if they're in power, they have power to influence people,
Yes.
the way things yeah,
Oh,
right,
no,
right.
the establishment.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that. I'm truly taking the servant leadership thing to heart, because it is. And I'm here to serve. Give me an opportunity to set the course for our state to flourish and to bring every citizen of Washington State into that prosperity. And then I bounce, right? I go back to the community where I should
Fix
be.
the system.
Yes.
And then the individual is less important at that point.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And so it's all about...
Or say the individual politician.
No,
is what I meant.
you're right.
Yeah.
It's all about the system, and the system belongs to the people. So we need to fix the system. So no, we're bringing something really, really magical, I believe. And as you folks can hear, I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of my political affiliation. But I think people had an opportunity through your show, and thank you for this, Dylan, to understand what that means to me. What does it mean to be a Republican for Simi Bird? Because it means something different to everybody, and that's just the freedom of thought. And again, the freedom of being a citizen. I got a chance to explain what it means to me. I think once people understand that, the more people who hear that message, I think they'll see the sense of things.
Yeah.
And I think they'll see my heart and what I hope to bring.
Awesome. I have a list, some hot issues that we haven't brought up yet.
Yeah.
Abortion.
Yes.
I won't even ask a question. Abortion. Go.
Oh, no. And I will. So
Yeah.
no, this is good. This
Yeah.
is important. And I don't run away from it. I lean into it. I value life from conception through life's journey to death. I think everybody does. I mean, think about it. It's a human thing. Who does not value life? But I'm for giving women more choices. You want to talk about choice? I'm for giving women more choices, and here's why. We have an abortion law, 9.02.110. That is the law, and it's life of the mother, viability of the child. All the people who do not fit that criteria, you cannot have an abortion in Washington State.
That's what the current law is.
That's
right
what
now.
the current law is right now, and 170 gives you the descriptions, right? Again, I read the law and I read the Constitution daily so that I'm aware, so that I can do what I need to do. So when I say give more choices, we need to stop vilifying women and start valuing women, right? We need to start bringing them the resources that they need so they have that health, so that they can take care of that child, because they cannot do it by law. Then we can't just abandon them. We cannot forget, well, that she needs health, right? Prenatal health. She needs support. Finances, one of the main reasons why a lot of young women...
I mean, you look at the cost of
Yes.
just being by yourself, add
Yes.
a child to it, you're like,
Oh, no.
this doesn't add up.
Especially if you're young and if you're by yourself and you're scared, we need to support them. We need to bring resources to them. And then the other thing is we bring resources to programs within the communities so young men understand their roles and responsibilities, right? As a man, because it takes two. And for young women to understand their self-worth and how special they are. Again, I'm the child of a single mom. I'm the father of 3 daughters, right? So God said I'm going to be around women my entire life. When it comes to women's rights, it's a no-brainer for me. It's first, foremost, and always women's rights. But I'm acknowledging the reality. This war between pro-life and pro-choice, that's us being played against by both sides.
Right.
In Washington State, it doesn't apply, and the governor has no authority to take away anybody's rights. And you got to question the governor who would get elected to take away people's rights. I'm not. Right, I'm not that guy. So my point is, we have what we have. Let's do what we can do.
And so if I'm hearing this correctly, it's, okay, here's the law.
Yep.
I didn't do it. There it is, right? If one of the biggest reasons for abortion is, let's use the word economic.
Sure, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Instead of trying to tweak the law,
Yeah.
let's change the conditions so everybody wins.
It's valuing women in their most critical time of need,
Well,
right?
And then we'll talk the most civilizationally important thing they could be doing, which is making more human beings.
This is it. And so,
Yeah.
and then there's that. So really, the argument between pro-life and pro-choice, when we want the same things, I mean, if you stop and talk to a person and say, kind of like vaccines, right? I'm going to say by government, I'm going to mandate you do this. Right? I can see why a person says, whoa. But the bottom line is, we have a law. And my job as governor is not to take this stance or this stance. My job is to enforce the law. My job is to respect the law. And if it needs to be changed, that is up to the citizens. That's called self-governance, right? It's citizens getting involved. But again, remember I said earlier about the Constitution?
You can go straight to the legislature with
That's exactly it. And so my point is, we have the law. There is so much we can be doing to protect women, to value life. And I will. There are so many groups out there who will bring young women in and support them, give them health, give them the counseling, give them support. We just need to make sure that the state is either partnering with these organizations, but directly providing services and support for those women, so that they have more choices, not less, or not that they have to feel that despair to make one of the most difficult psychological decisions of their life. I call that empathy, compassion, and respect. And I operate within the law and within my role as governor, and that's RCW 43.06.10, right? I stay within my left and right limits, and I do what I can do as the Constitution, Article 3, dictates. I'm not a tyrant. I'm not here to bring my opinion or my beliefs, although my beliefs define who I am as a person. Right. I will never turn my back on God, because God is my foundation of life, and I'm not afraid. I don't run away from that. Right. And there's if whether you're Christian, Muslim, Sikh, it does not matter. Buddhist, we're all children of the earth, and if you don't have a religion, God bless you too. Right. You have You have every right to yours. It's my job not to judge your lifestyle. It's my job to protect your liberties.
Yeah, you're in the political sphere. You're not in the religious sphere.
That's
right.
It. Yeah. That is. And we can talk about separation of church and state. I respect that as well. Jefferson had some, and Adams, they had some good discussions on that. No, I mean, it's the war is over with that. And for me, it's over. Because, again, for me to value life, that means all life. That means that mother. She deserves all the support. And because we have a law, then that means we need to acquiesce to whatever that law is and again, do what we can do to enrich the lives, to prevent it from happening, right? To prevent unwanted pregnancy. There's so many things we can come together on instead of sitting here and fighting a battle when there's really not
nothing
even a war.
Happens. Nothing gets accomplished.
Nothing gets accomplished. And so while other politicians, if you will, I want to say I'm not a politician, but other people run away from that, or they give double talk or fast talk. No, I can slow it down and say it all over again. But because that's who I am and that's what I am on this discussion. And serving the people of Washington State is valuing the lives of all citizens of Washington State, right? So stepping outside of that to the broader picture, right? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I see my job as making sure every single Washington citizen has a pathway to that people can love where they live, can be valued where they lived, be respected where they live. Again, let's put people above politics. Let's bring humanity back. Let's have those discussions. And I will say this, I'm not controlled by anybody, right? I could say, if anything, I've already said it. I've given my life to Jesus Christ, and I'm proud of that. So I'm not trying to don't say, well, he's too religious to be governor. No. What's the downside? I love you. Come on now. Right?
Well, his religion could be that the state is God, but I guess that's another philosophical discussion we can have later.
But no, I think we're better together. Yeah. And I would say this. It's important for everybody to understand, and I think you would agree with me that the strength of America is our diversity. It always has been, right? You go back to the Declaration, or you go to just Ellis Island, right? And I cited that plaque on the pedestal. It's a
Bring Me Your
it's the new Colossus by Emma Lazarus. Bring me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shores. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me, and I will lift my lamp beside the golden door. America was always about the underdog. It was always about opportunity, liberty, and freedom to pursue our dreams. We forgot that. I want to bring that back to Washington State. I want to, as a chief executive, bring forth this beautiful, clean, our Emerald City, right back, be the number one tourist destination this side of the Mississippi, where we're bringing in so much more revenue for the state. We're finally, instead of taxing everybody every 5 seconds or making up ways to tax people or taxing our seniors out of their homes, right? How about we enrich our citizens by giving them tax relief, which we haven't had in 40 years either. That's no coincidence, right? So there's so much we can do. We just need the right leadership to make it happen. And all the while, we're taking care of our citizens. All the while, we're taking care of our citizens. I'm just telling you, if you knew the numbers, if you did the research, you would see, oh, we can make this happen. It is not that hard. We can bring good paying jobs.
There are hard problems and easy problems.
Yes.
And there's some things it's like, oh, why don't we just stop doing that thing? And
yes.
Right, to fix it, there's a lot of that.
It could shift it greatly.
Yeah.
And that's what leadership is about. That's why bringing someone in who's a career American versus a career politician, someone who knows what it's like to struggle, right, financially, to struggle socially or economically. That is value. That is knowledge. We can call that street knowledge, right? Mm-hmm. That is value that we don't typically get when we elect the aristocracy or the anointed ones, right? So no, we're gonna go back to our roots, and we're gonna bring in a career American who has the knowledge, skills, ability, experience, and lifetime that could really bring value to our citizens. And I'm you can tell I'm passionate about this, right? I didn't wake up and say this. It's nothing that I want, mm-hmm. and it's nothing that I need. I've been given everything I need by God Almighty, but I want everybody to understand the blessings of liberty, right? I want everybody to feel that. And again, I want to break down these barriers that have been dividing us. I want to enrich everybody. I mean, that's when I say that, I'm not saying putting a new car in everybody's garage. I'm just saying get out of the way and let them flourish, mm-hmm. right? And I do appreciate this time with you. It's been great.
Yeah. Do you need to wrap it up, or can I ask you another question?
Oh, you can. No, I'm here for you, brother. Yeah. I love this.
Okay,
this is fellowship.
I got another one. Okay,
yes.
So let's go back to the school board thing, the mask thing.
Yeah.
Right. You're the mistake. You're the elected mistake,
yep.
and everybody was pushing against you, even though that you were right.
Yes.
We don't care that you were right.
Yeah.
We cared that you didn't do what we said.
Exactly. Right? Beautifully said. That's what it comes down to.
So as governor, you'll be a mistake.
Yeah.
And we're just talking about abortion, right? There's some grim humor. If you're governor and then the entire apparatus decides to push back against you, the bureaucracy and all the different levels and blah, 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 what's your plan on navigating that?
Oh, no, that's I don't want to say it's easy because I don't want to always seem like I have an answer, but again, I shouldn't be here if I didn't kind of do as much as I could to prepare or to mitigate threats. That threat would be mitigated by, as a governor, my roles and responsibilities, as I've clearly defined, knowing what I can and cannot do. I could literally render, right, the House and Senate, right, kind of inactive or ineffective if they can't get their bills past my desk. Make sense?
Right.
It's the power of the veto. That's guaranteed under the the Washington State Constitution.
Yeah, and the chances in the supermajority,
that's it,
on the the other end is very low.
It's very low. So understanding that if they cannot bring forth a supermajority, which overrides my veto, well then, again,
you can just veto everything.
I can.
Yeah.
And so, not that I'm going to say I'm going to go into office ready to pull that trigger, right? No, I want to collaborate. I want to work together with our people's house. I just want to make sure it's my responsibility as a chief executive to ensure that people are doing the people's business, right? And the people's business has nothing to do with my beliefs or what I think is good or bad, is if they're doing the people's business. And that's why I want to be transparent as possible so that the people can have a direct view, right, of what's happening and that the people know what laws are being proposed. And so, and their testimonies matter to me as governor. So, yeah, I plan on collaborating. You know, I've been nationally trained as a mediator, so I'm. It's not my first rodeo mediating and finding consensus, working together, building coalitions, even when people are on two different sides of the aisle or on a very emotional or very serious issue. That's nothing that's not I should say it's nothing I run from. It's something I embrace and I value it. Having the opportunity to bring folks together, common sense. You know, Socrates called it we called it the Socratic method of dialectic engagement, when you have differing professional opinions, but we learn to listen to one another, right? That's what leaders do. We facilitate, right, those consortiums of dialectic engagement in which people bring different diverse ideas and thoughts, and we listen and respect what people have to say so that we have a better understanding. And then when we have that, we often find that we have more in common than we don't. Mm-hmm. And then
is that interesting?
It is interesting.
If we stop fighting over the weaponized labels, we actually have a lot in common.
Well, that's it. And again, knowing this because I've done this for a living, right? Mediation, negotiations, right? Whether it's contracts or anything else, you'd be surprised what we can accomplish We just have to set the language and the weaponization of language labels and PSYOP. Set it down. Let's focus on what we want to accomplish, and then let's start talking about how we can get there, right? And then we start to massage it until we have a product that we know we can live with, right? That we will forget us living with it, but that we know our citizens who we serve, they can live with it, because that's ultimately why we should all be there. So, no, that's my primary, what I just shared with you. But if it comes down to DEFCON 4, right?
Then you got it ready.
Then I got it. I've got it ready, and I will let them know. I mean, again, first and foremost, we serve the citizens of Washington State. So do it right. Be transparent. But if you're not going to want to collaborate and work together and find consensus, then I'm sorry. It's
got my veto pen ready.
Right.
Test me.
Can't let it go. I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, don't make me do this, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it was you, not me, right? So, but no, not the blame thing, but just, wanting to do the right thing to give value for our jobs as public servants, to ensure that we're doing what's right by the people we profess to serve. I think that's, again, I'm going to say leadership. This is a different style of leadership. Yes, I'm a proud Republican. I told everybody why, but I don't wear that on my sleeve, right? My job is to do my job, and my job is to serve all citizens of Washington State. I just have my values. I have my beliefs. And does that matter? Yes, it does, right? Because it guides how I conduct myself with integrity, that I support the Constitution, which, think about that, the Bill of Rights, right, in our Constitution, right? We have a lot of them. I mean, that matters. It's to protect our citizens. If you have that, your forethought, that is something you think about every day that you get up. When I go to work as governor, I think I'm going to do the right thing, right?
It's a different attitude,
It's a different attitude. It's just giving it back to the people, and that's when I say I'm going to do it. I'm going to give us a reset, and it's not just to do it to give us a reset, to bring about self-governance again, but to put things in place that my kids and my grandkids can feel proud to live in this state, right? And that other families' kids and their grandkids, no matter how they were born or how much money they had or didn't have, right, or what the color of their skin was, that we have things in place, that the American dream is out there for every single person. That's my dream for Washington State, and I just will promise people I'm going to do it. I'm unafraid. So I don't see limits. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not crazy on that, but I set it high and I work to that, like you said, right? Shoot for the stars, right? And that's what I'm going to do. Hit the moon. So that's what we're going to do.
I got another one for you.
Yeah.
So our favorite person on earth, A.G. Bob Ferguson.
Yes.
Recently, I believe he brought the language to the legislature to pass as a bill. It didn't make it. But this whole thing about putting a committee together to look into what was it, domestic violent extremism or white supremacy, something. But
House Bill 1333.
Right, this sort of thing. Now, thankfully, it flopped.
Yeah.
But I guess the question is white supremacy the leading problem in Washington State right now?
No. Oh, no. Of course not.
Yeah.
No, of course not. And I'll say no again. I think one of the leading problems, if you want to talk about any kind of supremacy, because I denounce any kind of racial supremacy, right? I mean, this is America, right? So we don't do that. And as governor, and while we're talking about that, I want to be very clear for the folks who are out there. It's a cancer. It's an ignorance. Racism must be mitigated, not cajoled or nurtured or ignored. It must be mitigated. Again, you cannot legislate human behavior, but where it exists, it will be dealt with, if that makes sense. Because everybody deserves to live free and safe, right? That's why we need law enforcement. So I guess on that is no. It's a Domestic Violent Extremism Commission is what Bob Ferguson, that was his baby. And that really says his mindset. Yep. Right here I'm bringing a mindset of service to our citizens. Bob Ferguson was bringing the same mindset that they used against Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the 60s when they sicked the FBI on him, trying to accuse him of being a communist, which he was not. They even used operatives. A block lady was one of them. I read the amazing story about that. So the same targeting that they would use on minorities back in the day, Bob Ferguson is trying to bring that forward in Washington State. We just heard this morning that the Southern Poverty Law Center labeled Moms for Liberty, right, as violent, as extremist. This is the same thing Bob Ferguson was proposing. For the folks out there, I mean, we can never allow something like that to exist in Washington State, because once you have something like that, stop and think about that. You know, you rise up and you demand civil rights. They could use that against you. If
domestic extremist.
That's exactly it.
Yep.
Yeah, because it goes against what they believe, right? So once that law gets passed, who's to say that there's not a change in regime, I'm using that term, right? A banana republic, because that's really what it is. That's not American. We would never have that. That would be a violation of our Bill of Rights.
Well, I mean, going back to that, this is really a systematic thing, is that, okay, you could say whatever reason you want that you want to put it there, but what you're doing in reality is you're giving a weapon to whoever's in charge.
Yes.
Right, and the whole point of the American thing was you don't get those weapons. That's the whole point.
Brother, thank you and amen. And I hope people hear what you just said. The whole point of our Bill of Rights, our Constitution, you know, when
the whole
Jefferson,
philosophic underpinning before they even got there, right?
Well, it was, because Madison had it laid out, and he's like, and he did this beautiful document. And Jefferson came in and said, "Hey, brother, you're doing good. However, let's not forget what we just came through and why we decide to form this constitutional republic, right? Because taxation without representation, we have that right now in Washington State." We have excessive taxation without representation in Washington State. And this government continues to do with that excise tax that he pushed through his Supreme Court appointees, right? And so now we have a constitution that says you cannot have an income tax. The IRS calls that Ferguson-Inslee excise tax an income tax, but yet they in the Supreme Court says, no, it's not. So therefore, it's not in violation of the Constitution.
Our Supreme Court is something else.
Well, absolutely. No, I know. I felt that sting personally, right? And so this goes against our Bill of Rights. It goes against our Constitution. It's a dangerous violation. And so when I talk about Constitution, there's nothing Republican about that. That's everything American. And when I talk about the Washington State Constitution, it's everything for the Washington citizens, to protect them, right? That's why we can never do something like this. But I'm so glad you brought that up, because it goes to the mindset, right, of some of these people who profess to be leaders or who would ask to be the chief executive of this state, right? I mean, a person can say, well, Simi Bird, you were getting recalled because you gave mask choice. Well, I'll wear that as a badge.
Yeah, I was going to say,
of honor. Yes, I did.
and not only did I get recalled, you didn't do it.
Exactly.
You were unsuccessful. So
exactly, right? Right? No, it's just, so it's one of those things that, again, at some point, do we want a leader with a mindset of suppressing, abusing power, right, that violates the Constitution, which they do it consistently? Or do you want someone who will stand up to the point of putting themselves out there personally? Because, you know, they sued me, and they, again, they're still trying to recall me. So what's more important, me or the Constitution? And I say the Constitution. So that's something that's empowering. I say that again, the Constitution. Why? I swore an oath multiple times in service to my country, not just as a Marine or a Special Forces Green Beret or as a federal director, but each time, an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and to continually uphold what that means. That oath did not expire when I retired, right? It's something that lives in me as what I call that career American.
And you're going to have to take it up again if you win anyway.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'll gladly, and most definitely, because it empowers me. So no, folks, think about what you're getting. It's dangerous. And I'm bringing back the Constitution for everyone. And these folks are trying to suppress the Constitution at every turn, to violate the Bill of Rights at every turn. That's just wrong. They're in the wrong line of effort, right? You want to be a lawyer, go be a lawyer, right? You want to go do that in corporate. But if you are not here to protect and to defend the Constitution or to serve the people that governed, well, then you're in the wrong job. You should not be an elected official. And if you're doing it for yourself, you're wrong. That's a character flaw. So, yeah, we're bringing a whole different game.
Absolutely.
And it's real, right? It's the lives of our Washington citizens, and it's an opportunity to really do great things for everyone. So I'm excited. I'm equal to the task.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Well, this has been an excellent conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time to.
Best I've ever had.
Yeah, okay, well, I'll take that as a compliment.
Oh, it's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Plug. Where's your website?
Yeah. Please.
No.
Bird for Governor. Go to Bird, BIRD, FOR, birdforgovernor.com. And folks, you know what? The establishment, if you look at my opponents, and again, just the other person running, because he's a good person, I like him. His donations, average donations, like $1,200. Mine is like $100. So we get $5, $10, $4. I'll take every penny, right? Mm-hmm. And we need you to invest in the future of Washington. It's an obvious choice between the establishment or us, the people, of the people, by the people, for the people. That's really what we're bringing back. So please go to birdforgovernor.com, donate, contribute, maybe I say 24 for 24, $24 a month, right? So that we have a victory in 2024. That'll set us up. So let's do it.
Excellent.
Thank you, Dylan. God bless you, brother.
Yeah, thanks.
My man.